Yeah.
Oh.
Didn't even hear it. Didn't even hear it.
Would you see that again?
Can you hear the volume on this any better? Volume, 1, 2. Any better?
Just a second.
Yes.
Jerry,
Volume must be totally.
got a band there again. Well, hi, Dick. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Gary, you need a remote. That you can just.
It's not very loud.
I would guess I would need Tom to tell us how to do it. I set the volume to be auto because it wasn't.
Okay, that's better, Dick. We're
How you
adjusting the
doing?
volume here. Hold on a minute.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to go wash the dishes.
Quiet, everybody. We're doing audio sound right now before we start the meeting. Please.
Right on the ball.
Right. Rocky is out of the park and we're trying to adjust the volume. Hi, Rocky. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can
Mark?
you hear me?
Are we getting through the,
What, Rocky?
I just asked if you could hear me.
Yes. Mark, can you hear her for the audio?
It is low.
no?
It's low, but that's good.
Okay.
Can you turn up her volume?
Rocky, do you have
It's
your,
all, yeah, the volume's turned up all the way.
That's better.
okay, I think you're gonna have to come forward when you speak, okay?
Try your mic.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me out there? That's much better on the back row. Can you hear me? Am I muffled, mushy? Any of the above? If I am, I'm leaving.
Cranky.
Wow.
I know, right?
We would throw them at, the meeting had started, we would have thrown them out, right?
I know. Okay, quiet again. Mark, is that sounding better for the audio?
There's feedback happening.
Okay,
It's not, it's a little better. It's not a lot better. It's mushy. Maybe it's all I can do right now.
is that better if I do that?
Lot better.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try to point at my nose. Okay, folks, we'll do this for real now. 9:08, we are open for business.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We'll start our meeting now. Rocky is out of the park. Rocky, do you want to call the roll call? Or do you want somebody?
Yes, I will. As long as you can hear me.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
yes, yes.
Patty Healy,
Yeah, here.
Jim McIntosh, Jerry Vrooman,
Here.
Rocky Shanahan, almost here. Sharon Elliott,
Here.
Bev Boykin,
Here.
Susie Rupert,
Here.
Don Bush,
Here.
John Ratcliffe.
Here.
All right, the minutes, approval, our corrections. Do I have a motion on that? Jerry,
I make a motion, we approve last month's minutes as written.
as approved, okay. And it's second by Dawn. The vote, how many in favor of accepting the minutes from May, let me look at the date again, May 19th? Raise your hand, please. Rocky, that is unanimous. The minutes stand as approved for the meeting for May 19th. Next, we'll have the treasurer's report. Jerry?
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah. All right. Treasury report for May 2022. We had, for the month, we had allocated income from maintenance fees of $20,718. All other income was $11,240. Our total income for the month was $31,958. Expenses amounted to $22,840, and our income exceeded expenses for the month by $9,118. For the fiscal year to date, we had allocated income of $227,898, other income of $90,731, total income $318,629. Our expenses were $307,936. So for the fiscal year to date through the end of May, our income exceeded expenses by 307,000, excuse me, by 10,000. That would be good. $10,693. Utility fund balance was $33,936. Storage fund balance was $2,150. CARF at the end of the month had a balance of $196,110. And the only transactions we had CARF was earned of $3. As you do notice that the interest rates are going up, so we can start to do some investing. Anyway, AWL, at the end of the month, we had 160 people on the list. We had 143 members of the park and 27 renters. And that is the treasury report. The investment advisory report, we had a total of $183,099 deposited at Woodward Jones, of which $133,000 roughly was AWL funds, and the rest $50,000 was M&O funds. And fiscal year we earned $17 in interest. Okay, that's the investment. Should I go with the business
Please.
report? Kim asked me to pass on this information that she's been busily collecting the fees for this coming year's annual maintenance and storage fees. Remember that July 1st is the deadline, and you must complete a new storage lot agreement if you are renting a storage lot. Our park is at capacity. Right now, we don't have any. We've been putting anybody coming in into boondocking, and so we're doing a lot of juggling in terms of getting people into permanent or more full-time slots. We've got. Do you want to remind folks that payments are accepted at the counter? That's where the till happens to be located, so she put it right in the till rather than bring it to the mailroom door. But if you have it. Payment, you put it into an envelope and drop it into the mailbox. And a friendly reminder, the office is closed between noon and 1 o'clock for lunch break. Let me mention one other thing. We received a letter from the city of Sutherland indicating our water rates are going up by 4.4%. And some miscellaneous, and they also have a base fee that they charge us, that's going up, and our sewer is also going up. So we have some additional expenses coming down the road for that.
When will that go into effect, did they say?
Increasing for the August 2022 billing cycle.
Okay.
It was in July.
Correspondence. Rocky, do you have any correspondence?
No,
Okay.
Manager's report.
Do you have a manager's report from the park manager?
no, he is still ill. I talked to him this morning. He's getting better, but he's not there today, and he didn't do a report this month.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, you have a comment?
Yeah, we do have the part-time employee working for us now, Ryan, who happens to be Melissa's
Oh, yeah.
husband, and he started yesterday. And he was if you drove by lot, what's it, 58?
58.
He was the one, good looking one that was down there working on the shed.
You hear that, George?
That was John. What's his name? Ryan.
Ryan Hanna.
He was the young one that was there.
He had a dark beard.
Anyway, so you all saw him.
Well, and,
Did you get any work done?
well, that's what I was just gonna say. He worked very hard
Mhm.
and, he, learned quickly. So he had never done one of those sheds before, but, or anything like that really. But he, worked very hard, looked for things to do and, learned very quickly.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have something I'm going to put under other when we're finished here. I was called by Kim from the office at 8:25 this morning. The air conditioning is out and it has been out for over a week, right,
In
Jerry?
the office.
In the office, in the office. Excuse me? And heater. The whole unit. It is 29 years old. Barnes Heating and Cooling came out this morning, said the compressor is out. And to replace that, which would not be a good idea, would cost $2,000-3,000 or more, or to replace it. And that's would be the best thing to do is replace it.
We
So-
put the whole unit.
Yes, the whole unit. So anyway, she said Barnes Cooling and Heating, who we do have done business with for all the time we've been here, I guess. They're going to give her an estimate of repair and a new unit. So that will be under other.
So you want a motion dealing with that under other, correct?
Since it's kind of an emergency, an
Yeah.
urgent thing, right?
Since it's a park infrastructure replacement, the billing for that would fall under CARF. So we could make a motion to go ahead and go through, have that done. That way you don't have to have a special board meeting to approve it once she gets the bill.
Good idea. We'll do that at the end of since it was an add-on, we'll do it last. Okay, going forward now with our meeting. We have committee reports. Jackson Jills.
I have that report.
Go ahead, Bev.
Linda Essex asked me to read the report today as liaison. Report to the board, June 16th, 2022. The potato bake on Memorial Day was a major success with 50 people in attendance. Special thanks to Ray and Janice Vaughn and Mary Reagan for baking and serving these smoky treats. Lots of toppings were brought to share. We enjoyed visiting and getting acquainted with new members. Now, the yard sale was a washout for many of our members, but the Jackson Jills table did make $50.
Bev, could you put your phone, the mic,
Closer.
yeah, closer there.
There's talk of having a sale later this summer. The blood drive is on Wednesday, June 22nd. Donors are still needed. The sign-up sheet is in the dining room waiting for you. Nominations for officers of Jackson Jills will be taken at the June 27th meeting. So far, there has been no one expressing interest in filling these positions. We hope people will value this committee enough to volunteer. The first ice cream social was held on June 12th with 20 people attending. Scoopers are needed for the coming weeks. As of May 31st, 2022, our bank account has $2,931.40. Signed, Linda Essex, Jackson Jills Chairman.
Okay, that was good for the audio. Thanks, Bev. Now, next committee, PCM.
George, 1487, Joe. Not too much to report on, other than the fact, if you've all had a chance to walk on the pathways, they've pretty well finished. We've had some good turnouts. We put it on the internet thing and it worked out. I think the last time we went, what was it, about 9 guys showed up. So we had a real good turnout. They're not completely finished, but that was it. And other than that, We just have other projects that just wait to get started. And did do yesterday, for report for Randy, we got a shed done for him. So that's one on John's place yesterday. And we may not get another for another 6-7 weeks till we recuperate. We found out we're out of shape. And I'll talk later on another subject.
Okay, well, that's one shed down. How many left to do?
Probably 17, 18 full sheds.
There you go, folks.
And it's, I'm thinking somewhere around $1,700–1,800 per shed now. It depends on what the next buy of the siding is gonna be.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, George. Okay, did any committee group want to speak out that did not get on the agenda? Okay, we'll go right into unfinished business. Rocky, do you have a report on the tree issue for lot 94 and 95?
Yes, I do. Randy went up about a year and a half ago. We had the tree surgeon Cody in the park, and he addressed several hundred trees in the park, but he especially looked at lots 194 and 195. Cody said they were healthy trees, so they were just trimmed off the shed by Cody. I don't see these trees to be any different than they were then when Cody did the survey, but he will have to look at them again. Now, if people on the lot feel it's a hazard to them, I guess the board would have to make the decision if they are removed or not. Then it's a personal thing. The tree on lot 81 is a healthy tree. It was planted next to another apple tree, which caused it to lean a little. The tree is in their lot. If the leaseholder feels it is hazardous to them, he has the right to take it out. I don't feel this is a park issue. This year and next year, there is no funding in the budget for the tree service to come out because of the budget cuts. So, and as long as Randy feels that this tree is still as healthy as it was before, yeah, I guess it would be up to the board to decide if there's a decision to be made. But that's his view on the tree.
Okay, so the tree service person, Cody, or whomever in the future, won't be out until at least next year.
There is no budget in next year's
right
for the tree service to come out.
Right, because of
So
no
it'll be
time.
It'll be 23, 24 before there's any money left put back in for tree service.
Okay,
Unless there's an emergency of some kind.
certainly. Okay,
Madam President?
yes.
I'd like to correct, it's lots 94 and 95, not 190.
Oh, that's right, it is. It is 94 and 95.
Thank you.
And that's what I wrote down, even though she said one. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Well, that's the report, folks, on that. That can be brought up later if we need to. Okay, the next under unfinished business, Susie, do you have a report on that?
Yes, this is about the sewer connections. This is from Randy Bice, the park manager. He writes on 6/5 of 22, the bottom line is by removing the razor connector to sewer connections off of the RV is being cut off and removed for the simple reason of modification. So the belief is this is the way to hard pipe the sewer connection or to drop black tanks out and put household flush toilets in because they are no longer going to tow down the road. We are an RV park that requires these RVs to have the full hookups and be ready to travel at any time. But this is not happening. To move an RV down the road requires a razor cap. If that is cut off the RV, then you can't put a cap on it to seal the sewer system. Now we know that people are doing this. We have moved 3 out of the park that the black tank was on the ground under the RV. So you have to ask yourself, are we benefiting our park by allowing this to happen? Or is it an individual benefiting themselves? This is a question you need to ask yourself. I feel that an RV that has any kind of work done on it should be inspected for RV park regulations. As you know, any modifications turn it into a structure, not an RV.
Okay. Did you go with him on any inspections?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I think Rocky might have, but I haven't.
Did you, Rocky?
I have not. George, the last rig that was looked at, George went without Randy.
Okay.
And that's the one that is leaving the park now.
And we do have in the rules and regs on page 9, it says each occupant shall use an airtight sewer connection between the RV sewer hose and the sewer inlet to prevent spillage and unwanted odors. And in the guidelines, it talks about the health department sewer connections must be screw-in type fittings. So there's a couple of different areas in there in our rules and in the guidelines that specifically state it has to be a screw-in type.
To the sewer inlet.
To the
Yes.
ground.
To the ground.
To the ground.
We're not talking about the connection from your rig. Right. Right. Okay. Plus, if you do have a flex hose, and a lot of people do, it should be straight with no valleys in it. And I think that's in our rules and regs too. Okay. Any board member wish to comment to this report?
I would like to comment on the cap that goes on the RV. The restriction on that is when it's going down the road. So as long as you have a removable connection to the sewer system and from your RV to the pipe that feeds the sewer system and it's airtight, my view is that's a legal connection.
That it's
Just
legal?
just because you can't put a cap on the end of it when it goes down the road, that's your problem if you take it down the road. You're not moving it down the road here in the park. Okay, so the screw-in connection has to be into the ground. It must be airtight and it must be removable without cutting it. In other words, you cannot have a solid connection from the RV to the sewer dump because that puts us more in the view of being a mobile home park, because that's considered a permanent installation. If you have a quick disconnect between the two, then you're okay. And my view is a quick disconnect is either a spin fitting or hose clamps.
But what do you think when you don't have something covering the outgo of your pipe from your RV and you're driving, you're leaving or you're coming and you don't have anything there? Is the sewer going to go in the ground?
No, there's a valve.
Well, what happens if the valve fails?
Well, what happens if the pipe breaks?
Right.
I mean, it's the same. You can say what if all you want. If you have a valve at the outflow, which all RVs are supposed to have unless someone's modified them, okay, then you're not going to have a spill in the park. If you have a spill in the park, then you're liable for that. But I don't think the park should be enforcing rules for rigs running down the road. That has to do with the state.
Well, what about on the roads of the park?
That's what
I'm saying. If you have a spill in the park, then you're liable. To say that you have to have a certain type of connection on the end, that means that a lot of the rigs who have a airtight fitting with a band clamp on it, and there's a lot of them in this park, which have been considered completely illegal. Now you're gonna say, no, you can't have that type. You have to weld on a new piece so you'll have a spin type connection. We've never done that before, and I don't see any reason to have that.
I see you, Rocky. Rocky, go ahead.
The rigs that Randy has examined are just the rigs that were on their way out of the park. Like 206 and the one just recently that left. So it's after he didn't come onto the lot and examine it prior to the selling of the rig, and the rig was on the way out.
To your knowledge, did either one of those lots, when the RV left, was there damage, spillage, or anything underneath their rigs?
Just the one on, I can't remember, two of them? 22 had spillage, and we called someone in and we took care of it, dug it out.
Right.
It'll be interesting when this next rig that they're getting ready to leave, what it will look like underneath it when they get it out of there.
There's another rig getting ready to leave?
203.
Yes.
203 is out.
I looked at that.
Yeah. And that it does not have any tanks underneath it.
Yeah, that was an illegal rig.
Yep.
Okay, George, go ahead.
Or valves.
Or the trailer is still in the park to go up and look at it for yourselves. It's available to look at. It does not have a holding tank. It doesn't have shut-off valves. It has a flush toilet in it. So that's an example of why some of this is all coming up.
Yep.
Okay.
There's no way to shut it off if it should break.
Which lot is that? Did you?
Lot
203.
Okay, well, they're gone.
Typical of what
Well, the
some of
rig
this
was-
stuff would have to be.
Pardon?
The rig was here last night.
It's out of the park. It left yesterday afternoon.
Late last night?
It must have been late because I looked at that rig yesterday afternoon.
Mhm.
On Patty's request, and it's an illegal, it was an illegal rig in the park. It was straight plumb, there was no holding tanks, and that is against park regulation. You have to have a gray and or black water holding tank.
But that does not to be argumentative, but it does not say that in our rules, other than self-contained. Okay, and does that hurt our park as to being an RV park? That's a question.
I think anything that's
When the
direct
tank,
tends to make the park more a mobile home park than an RV park. The policy of the park has always been that there will be one or more holding tanks on any rig that's in the park.
And they should have a shut-off valve also,
Yes,
period.
yeah. And well, the holding tanks kind of,
Yeah.
they kind of goes together. If you have holding tanks, you have a shut-off valve. If you do not have holding tanks, you do not have a shut-off valve. If that trailer did not have a shut-off valve, it was direct plumbed.
Rocky?
according to the state, when the holding tank and the valves, anything like that is removed, it is not an RV anymore, it's a structure. And that would affect our standing as an RV park.
Okay, Ron?
I'm Ron Pennington on lot 201.
Mhm. Closer to your mouth, Ron.
Will be in. Okay. It seems to me about 4 to 5 years ago, this was brought up and it was discussed at length. And there was language put in that was read and studied by the bylaw committee that covered a lot of this. So I might ask if you all go back and take a look at that. Because whether it has hanging on it or not is not my opinion. It needs to, when it comes out of the park, it has to be ready for the road. And we said that all of these structures within this park would be in tune with state requirements and the RV association at large, and it was all written and directed at that point. So flush toilets directly into the ground is not permissible. Whether you want to address that or not is up to you, but that is not an RV.
Correct.
And so if there's a cap not on it, that's a problem, whether it's on our road, sitting on the property where it might emit fluids, or it's on the highway, it's still a problem. And so if we're going to be an RV park, it needs to follow what was finally brought up to be what the RV Association claimed to be an RV. So I just wanted to let you know that you need to go back and look at some of those. That might help.
2018,
A couple years ago, yeah.
done over winter. Okay, any more conversation on this? It sounds like, what are we going to settle now? Are we going to have every rig inspected in the park? Every rig inspected. Underneath, is that what we want to do, folks? Is that what we want to do, board?
Is it underneath?
Are you talking about just hookup? Or are you talking about the tanks?
For both.
As far as the inspection, I mean.
Everything. See if there's tanks, if there's holding tanks, see if the connections are up to park standard. The whole system, from the tanks to the sewer inlet.
The sewage connection, as Harry said, there's a valve that shuts off your tanks. Okay, the exit coming out of the RV into the sewer has a nipple bayonet type locking device on it. And if you're leaving the park, you have to be able to take your sewer line off of there, right? Well, it's a bayonet type connection off there. So obviously, what a cap costs, what, like $3-4? Put a cap on there, and all it does is locks it in place. All it is a backup from vibrations in case one of your valves seeps. Because I had that happen to one on mine. Luckily, I had a cap on the end. But now, as far as inspection, everything, everybody in the park should have a bayonet type connection on the hose that comes from the trailer to the sewer.
But some may not.
Then they're not legal.
For what?
To be an RV. They're manufactured with one, so that obviously it had to be replaced by the owner.
That could be, but as long as you have, as far as the rules of this park, if you have a airtight fitting on that, and you have holding tanks, okay, and you have a valve, you're legal. You've always been legal in this park to say that you have to have one specific type of fitting for every RV. I think you're going beyond the rules. For putting a cap on, that is a rule for an on-the-road RV. To leave this park legally, you're supposed to have a license plate that's up to date on that RV. We do not require that. Are you going to go now say, oh, and by the way, everybody has to go and pay fees every year to make sure that their RV is licensed so it can go on the road? I don't think so.
I think the point being, it wasn't a manufactured. It's the manufactured item on the trailer when it was manufactured has been altered.
So you're saying that no alteration of any RV is allowed in the park?
As far as the sewer is, because then it's not transportable.
Then you better write a new rule.
Well, since it's classified as an RV park, if we have to get up and go, how are you going to disconnect it?
My you take the bands loose and the sewer line comes undone. There are a lot of them in there that are almost all of the hard piped, not the flexible pipe, but the hard pipe. Some of those do not have the bayonet on the end. They put another fitting so they could put the hard pipe to that. Do you want to have everybody have to go down a flexible pipe? I mean, we're doing something that the state requires if you're going down the road. I'm saying none of that affects how us being an RV park. Just because they don't have one particular fitting on their outflow does not make us not an RV park. We're still considered an RV park. The county, who does the inspections on our sewer lines, likes those hard pipes much more than flexible ones. They don't leak as much. They don't get valleys in them where wastewater stays in it. They're very happy with that. Has nothing to do with us being an RV park.
As long as the county's okay with it, then I guess we have to be.
And that has been said to me directly. They come in once a year and inspect our park, and we pay them about $900 to do that. And the last, 4 years, I guess, our sewer connections, they don't check every one of them, but they do check a specific amount, and we have had no problems. We had 2 minor problems 3-4 years ago. One had valleys in their flex line, and one had another incident that was easily remedied. If we do have any problems, we are notified and we are told specifically what the problem is, and then we can fix it. And our RV status is not in jeopardy. Okay. Yes, Dick Hathaway.
But we would.
Dick Hathaway, 205, and maybe you've answered my question. Who is doing the inspection? Park, is that the county or the city?
County.
Okay, the county is satisfied that we are an RV park?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to make one comment, and what Patty says, that we do not have a problem the way things are. We do have a problem with those rigs that are direct plumbed, because they are in violation. But if you have holding tanks and the sewer outlet to our sewer system comes out of a holding tank, we're good as far as the city goes and as far as the county goes. If they're direct plumbed, then that rig is in violation because it does not have holding tanks.
My concern extends beyond what we're talking about. It's kind of what Ron was talking a moment ago, what we went through 2-3 years ago. So we're very close, it sounds like, if we start pursuing this and doing things that are questionable, that status that we presently enjoy could be, I mean, to me, it's sounding like it's something that might move into other things. My concern.
Okay, this is the code book from the health department that was emailed to me, okay? In this code book, this is what they go by. Sewage, wastewater shall be disposed of in a public sewage system or in a manner approved by the Department of Environmental Quality, OAR, code section 340-071-0600. And I printed that out. Must be drained, capped, stored in a manner that will not create a public health hazard. This is the county rules. The discharge nozzle must be provided with either a cam lock quick coupling or a threaded screw cap sealed by threaded cap or quick coupling when not in use. Okay, so that's the code that they go by. I don't know if they go to each, if they're inspecting a RV, if they go to it, lift up the skirting, get underneath and see what's there. I don't know what they do, but I think they just look at your connection from your rig directly to the sewer inlet in the ground.
It has to be a screw in.
And when they look at that they approve it. So,
What did it say again about cap? You got it.
It's a camel.
yeah, a cam lock quick coupling, which if you Google that, it looks just like any of the other screw-on caps.
It's a lock, it's kind of like a bayonet type. The cam lock is kind of like the bayonet one. It just clicks on.
Absolutely, right. But they're
That's what
both,
the cam lock is.
but they're both quick release.
Yes.
It's both screw-ons. One costs about $30 and one costs about that $60. Yes, Anita?
Need to cover in lot 140, are not all rigs that come into this park, whether we're an RV or destination trailers or park trailers, whatever you're called, are they not equipped with holding tanks?
Yes.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
the individual is taking these tanks off themselves, is that how I understand?
Yes.
Yes.
And then go get them and leave the rest of us alone.
And what I would like to know is what sort of penalties do we have if we find someone that's not in compliance? We have not even discussed that, or we can talk about setting up rules and regulations and all that sort of stuff, but unless we're gonna do something about it, this is just moot, just sitting here talking about it.
Right, and the only way we can do anything about it is to inspect every rig in this park.
And decide we're gonna do something about it. Doesn't make any sense to inspect if we're not gonna do anything about it.
Right,
I mean, I've heard of folks that do not have holding tanks,
Mhm.
direct plumb.
Mhm.
We're gonna do anything about it? I don't know.
but we also know probably every one of us here in the park, our gray water is open and it drains constantly. We don't shut it, most of us, they don't shut it off, you just have a constant of your gray waters leaving,
That's fine.
okay? I don't know about black tanks, maybe some people do, maybe they don't. Yes, Ron?
I just want to remind the board that we enjoyed a different kind of status initiated group of so-called she can certainly tell you about the tax status and how that's changed over the years. Things can change in the park, whether we have control over it or not, and we should have control over it. Recall that the concern of the board back then was to get a hold of the RV Association to try to make sure they made a determination on what was considered an RV road ready to come into a park and still be classified as an RV. We're really kind of talking about park models who they may be bypassing holding tanks if they even have them. Most of your fifth wheels and your RVs have holding tanks. So it's kind of a non-issue. But where this is kind of crept up is to park models that have come onto the premise that have been modified for them to enjoy the benefit of direct sewage, let's say. And so one or two of those could change things. The county, when they come out here, they're only concerned with the same thing the county looked at when they looked at my septic tank. They looked for leakage. If there's no leakage, there's no problem, regardless of what's in the house. So it's just something we need to look at.
Any more comments?
I do, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
I just have a question for all of you that are here. We're talking, this could be a serious problem. We don't want to lose our status. So would anybody here object to a group of people like from PCM or something like that, or lot improvement, just to walk by and check your rig to make sure that it is in compliance and that the holding tanks are in place? Would anybody here have an objection to that?
No.
So, Yeah, so I mean, it would take 5 minutes for somebody to go by and look and then move on to the next one. So I'd like to make a motion that we form a committee to inspect them. We have one lady here, she's shaking her head no, but I don't see anybody raising their hand that they would object.
Okay, and we would comprise a list, a checklist list.
Yeah, and just check them, this
Check
one
and see what it
meets
is.
the requirements and this one doesn't.
There's been a motion, so you need a second
Okay.
before we discuss.
Okay,
A second.
Moved and seconded.
so that's a motion to form a committee to inspect
Yeah, well, our group of people, whatever you want, maybe like
Ad hoc?
PCM or,
an ad hoc committee?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Susie seconded it? Jerry?
I'd like to know what we're gonna do after we do this walkthrough. I mean, are we just gonna look at them and come up with a list, or are we gonna do something about discrepancies we find? I mean, there's no sense in doing the inspection unless we're gonna do something about it.
you're right.
So you want to just right now figure out what we're going to do on the fly without sitting and thinking about it?
No. I'm just saying, we need to figure the full scope of the thing.
But I also think I think it's a good idea to find out how big our problem is also before we do. And the other comment I just want to make is that I don't have a problem with the ad hoc committee. But the ad hoc committee is going to have to inform every leaseholder that they're going to come onto their property because that's in the rules. Okay? And they have to give them 24 hours notice. They can still come on for an inspection, even if they say, no, I don't want you on, if you give them 24 hours notice, or it's an emergency. This is not an emergency. So we have members here in the park who are very private of their leasehold. We need to inform everybody that, hey, we're coming on tomorrow or whatever, just as a process is all I'm saying.
Do we have any volunteers from our members to join this ad hoc committee?
Everybody jump up a month.
I'll be on it.
Jordan,
I'll volunteer.
yeah.
And what is the scope of the committee going to be? Are they simply looking at whether we have holding tanks? Is that the issue?
To see that they comply with they see if they have holding tanks and if it's not a, to see if that connection.
And it's not a solid connected system.
Exactly, yeah, it's not a solid connection, yes.
Yes, Jack,
Did you get those two people?
I got them down for
I'm a
volunteers.
member of the BOD group, along with Jerry and Don Osmus. And we had a problem, Randy had a problem with the sheds. We didn't think they were properly ventilated. We went around, made a list of the sheds, took 2 or 3 hours of our time and inspected every shed in this park. So it's not that big of a thing. It's getting the permission from members to do that. Thank you.
Could we just do a notice that there will be an inspection of each lot?
You probably need to put it in the mailbox and tell them what day you're going to be on their lot.
Right.
So we have to do it one day.
Right.
I mean, you know.
Do you think that could be done in one day, Jack?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Would be,
206 inspections.
right. Well, we wouldn't, well, I guess we would do the people that are in the rental too. We have, renters there. Well, anyway.
No, the rental.
Yeah,
I have a problem with understanding people coming on our lot because meter readers come on our lot every month without my permission. I didn't sign a paper that said I don't believe I signed a paper that said they could come on every month to read my meter. So
Good point.
what's the issue?
The issue is we had leaseholders get very put out when someone walks onto their lot. Basically the park manager to look at something.
They're just doing their job.
That might be, but but we have a rules and regs that says you will not do that. Nobody's brought the issue up with meter reading. It's a good analogy, but we are either going to abide by the rule we have, or we need to change that rule.
That's in the bylaws, Jim.
Okay, the membership is going to have to change the rule.
How about if they're on the easement? Right away?
You're on 2 lots then.
No, you talking about the utility easement? No, that's on the leaseholder. Because utility is not considered an easement, it's only where the utilities are, I believe.
Well, do any of you in the audience now have any problem with an inspection of your sewer system?
Show of hands.
Well, raise your hand if you have a problem. So it appears this group has no problem,
This whole thing became a problem because of one person.
and that person has left the park.
I think we're all adults.
We don't
here.
know
We should
that.
all know how to handle our sewers for all the years we've been here.
Are we going to kick them out if they have a drop tank?
Make them fix it. Or leave.
Or change rigs.
I mean, yeah. Fix it or leave it.
Would have to create rules for that.
And herein lies the problem. The rig is not a legal RV if it does not have a holding tank, one or more holding tanks.
Or if it's hard if it's glued to the.
Or if there's not a disconnect on the discharge system, so that it can be disconnected from the rig.
Okay.
And if you find things like that, those things can be changed or a tank can be put in. But those things mean that rig is not in compliance with being in an RV park.
Right.
But, and we've known for years that there were some that had been modified and it was ignored. Now it's come to a head. I know of 2 rigs in the last year that were that way. Now they've left the park. I don't know if we have any more or not.
Would you inspect just the sewer inlet connection, or would you inspect both connections, RV and inlet?
Well, it says that there'll be a screw in into the public sewer system, which is what the city owns. They own that. I mean, that flows into their system. It's supposed to be a screw in on that end.
At
So
the
they should
inlet.
be inspecting both. Does it have a holding tank? And is it a screw-in connection into the sanitary waste system?
Make sure it has holding tanks, make sure that both connections are correct.
But how do
Our rig has 2 things that you pull out when you
Valves.
discharge. Is that what you're looking for?
No.
Because our tanks are.
Well, if it has those, it has tanks.
Oh, that's what, okay.
Yeah.
If it has those, it has tanks.
Yeah.
So that part there, you're not going to look for a screw-on connection, right?
Well, where it goes into the city's system.
At the inlet. The sewer inlet is in the ground.
Well, yeah, the outlet
That's
is.
the outlet. That's the outlet. Is the outlet from the trailer to the sanitary system in the park. That is supposed to be a screw-in fitting.
The one that goes into the ground, the one
Yes,
that's on the top,
exactly.
it's gotta be a quick disconnect of some kind. Or like you said, even with a band and screws, but it can't be glued to it.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly right.
Madam President,
Yes, Jerry.
I think we've discussed this enough for a board meeting. I think this discussion needs to be carried on by the members that may be involved in this group, but we still have a motion that hasn't been voted on yet. But I also think we need to give the group some direction in terms of what we want them to look at and those sorts of things. And that may need to be done at a separate time. This doesn't need to happen right away because we want to do it correctly. And I think is most important right now.
Are you making a motion that this be postponed to another time so that it can be dealt with?
No.
Okay,
Then we need to probably call the question.
okay. And John, you will chair this ad hoc committee.
Okay.
Does any other board member want to co-chair? We have 3 volunteers right now, Jan Turley, Dave Van Westen, and George Boynton. Any other member would like to volunteer too? Okay. Marilyn Bruman. Okay, the motion is to form an ad hoc committee to look at the holding tanks and the solid connections to the sewer connection on every rig in the park. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. How many are in favor of doing that on the board? All voted yes, that motion passes.
I would like to make a statement though. I think you said every rig in the park. You're gonna have a hard time with a renter saying, hey, we're gonna inspect your rig. I would say every leasehold.
Every member's rig.
Every member's rig in the park. That way we might skirt some legal issues.
Okay, so we'll put every member rig in the park. Okay. That motion's passed.
Moving on.
Moving on, let's have lunch. Not now. Okay, and I think we're finished with unfinished business. So we'll go to new business. We have the annual meeting luncheon.
Madam President.
Yes, Jim.
I move that the Jackson Jills Committee host the luncheon at the annual membership meeting scheduled to be held on July 19th, 2022. I further move that the menu be Jackson Jills' choice and the cost for hosting a luncheon be paid from the general fund.
I'll second that.
And second by Sharon. Any discussion? I'll call for the motion. Those in favor of the motion, Jackson Jills hosting it, choosing what they want to feed us, and the funds will come out of the general fund for that luncheon. Raise your hand. And Rocky, that makes 8. Motion passed. Do we need a directive on that to Jackson Jills?
Yes, Jackson Jills and Kim.
Okay.
Will you handle that, Rocky?
Yes, I will.
And you'll be back next week to go back to work.
I'll be back Sunday. I'll be
Okay.
back Sunday.
Okay. I'm going to skip over political signs. I'm going to put political signage and hot tubs later. I think we're going to take care of our hopefully simple things now. We have the YouTube feed for board members.
Madam President.
Yes, Jim.
I move that the YouTube live feed of board meetings be approved by the board. I further move that a link to access this feed be placed on the members only webpage and that the YouTube live feed of board meetings start as soon as practical. I also move that these feeds continue until rescinded by the board.
Be funded by the board?
That these feeds continue until rescinded by the board.
Feeds.
And, if I get a second on this, I think we might want some input from Mark.
Okay, is there a second by Don? Okay, that's second. Any comments, questions from the board? Don, Mark, did you want to say anything?
Not really, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, Jim, can I
don't
see
know
your
how soon
motion?
what we can do. I think whenever it's, there's a lot of little glitches. This will be an evolving thing that will change over the next 6 months to 12 months. But the basic thing is if we can put a copy, put it on the member website. On the members only, I think that's.
And for those who may not have been at the agenda meeting, this feed is a live YouTube feed that's during the board meeting. There is not a recording on YouTube for this. This is simply a live feed so that you can go to the link on the members web page and look at YouTube feed of the board meeting, correct?
Right now, on today, right now, right when we start, I think it'll start when the meeting starts and it'll end when the meeting starts. There are ways to record things on YouTube, which we're still looking at. I think we will be able to record them and place recorded copies of this on YouTube on the members only website. So the links will be there. But we're not there yet. This is an evolving thing. Everybody's going to have a lot of patience. It's going to change as we go forward. But I think the key thing here that the board needs to approve and is putting this on YouTube. I think that's the key thing. Everything else is going to revolve and dance around and move. And, you know, we're going to have different cameras. We're going to have different locations. We're going to have a bunch of stuff as this goes forward.
Thank you, Mark. Any other discussion? Will we need a directive on this if it's passed? No.
No.
Okay. I will call for the vote. You want me to read this motion again? Jim said, I move that the YouTube live feed of board meetings be approved. I further move that the link to access this feed be placed on the members only webpage, and that the YouTube live feed of board meetings start as soon as practical. I also move that these feeds continue until rescinded by the board. That's one motion. Okay, those in favor of this, raise your hand, please. All in favor? Motion passed. It was unanimous, yes. All 8 voted yes. Are you going to give Rocky a copy of this, or you want me to give it to her?
That's it.
Okay,
I will also have a copy of the other motions to give to you.
okay, thank you. Part-time help for Randy. Jerry, do you have an update again on that?
I just discussed it earlier that we do have Ryan Hannah for helping Randy at the moment. We're still looking through express employment for something maybe more full-time, part-time help for Randy, and that's still in the process.
And how much are we paying this extra help person?
We're paying Ryan $15 an hour.
Okay, and how many hours is he going to be doing in this?
3 days a week, 8 hours a day, so about 24 hours a week.
For how long? The rest of
Until he goes back to school.
He's a teacher.
He's a teacher.
Or we run out of money.
Or we run, yeah.
Okay, so now we all know, and we have an update on that extra help person. Thank you, Jerry. I'm going to skip community gardens for right now. I'm going to go to, do we have a report on the cameras for the storage area, Jerry?
We're still working on it. We've got 2 bids, and I'm looking at the camera. One of my concerns was if we're going to put cameras in, we should be as consistent as possible so that we don't have to learn 3 different systems, because we have one system here in the clubhouse, one down in the office. I'd like to have the one that's in the maintenance area to be similar to these other 2. It appears that the ones that we have in the office give us more flexibility, I believe, and we're still playing with those. I'm testing. I've got something to work on this afternoon with one of the new cameras. We've got a Zoom camera coming in to replace one. And I think that's the way that I'm discussing with Randy and the way I'm pointed right now.
Okay,
Madam President, I
yes.
have a question for Jerry. What are we looking at cost-wise? Approximately?
Well, the two estimates that we've gotten right now are in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. I believe the other one, this something from what is called GW Security, will be less than that. But a lot of that, and I'm saying in maybe the $3,000 to $4,000 range. A system, from what I've seen on their website, is roughly $2,000 plus maybe cabling and some other stuff. So it's going to be in the $3,000 to $4,000 range.
Okay.
And that's for eight or so cameras at least. Okay.
So you're still evaluating those estimates. Also, we also have the electric gate. I know that's under other, but let's put that in there because it's part of the security. Quality Fence did come out and they evaluated and gave us an estimate on an electric gate system to the storage area.
And then, Madam President, I also spoke with John Leonard, and I have some information here with regard to a proposal for an electric gate. Because my thinking is cameras are fine and good, but does that really stop people from coming in and pilfering things out of the storage area? So I'm thinking electric gate might be a better consideration. But again, both those avenues are open for our decision.
Okay, and did you give each of the board a copy of this?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
And I emailed the copy to Rocky.
okay. And this, just reading it this morning quickly, this is something that can be done and put together by our members?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, and an estimate on it is around $9,000. Okay, we do have an estimate from the Quality Fence, and that was 15,500.
15,447.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we have a couple of things to work at, you know. Our security here was really challenged here a couple of months ago.
Good word.
Yeah, two things were missing, 2 vehicles left the park. A lot of the cargo trailers were broken into, things were taken. And if you're finding things that are missing now, you should report it. Go to the office, she'll give you the offense code that you can report it to the police department. And for everybody's information, I have talked to Officer Nelson, who came out and did the investigation on this. At one time, we heard there was a suspect that had been arrested. That was not correct. What he's told me was there was some suspects and some other theft. And they were questioning these individuals. They suspected they were connected, but they do not have a suspect. They don't have anything, but it's still an open case. If they find stolen property on people, then they can investigate. So that's why it's important if you have property missing, so it can be identified in the future. Okay, Jerry, are you suggesting we continue this complete package for security till next meeting?
We don't have any solution today.
Okay, but we have questions, so let's continue it to the July meeting. Beg pardon, Jim? Yeah. Okay. Yes, Mark.
Mark Stonemaker, lot 40. I don't want to stir the pot here, but I see lots of liability for the park. When you're talking $12,000, you're talking $15,000, that's pure liability. We're paying for something. I think, I rode back there once and there was lots of stuff unlocked. There was lots of cargo trailers without locks on them. I flat don't care. If somebody won't take care of their unit enough to lock it, let them steal it. If we're gonna talk about a automatic gate, we should put it at the entrance to this park and secure the whole park and not just the storage lot. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm stirring the pot. I'm done.
Well, you did stir the pot, but when you put something in storage you sign an agreement, and on that agreement, it says you do not hold the park liable for your personal property. So the park is, when you sign that as an individual, park has no liability in the
But
game.
if you spend $15,000, we're all paying for that. That's liability.
No, that's going to come out of the storage fee fund.
I'm just saying.
People that have their vehicles down there,
Are paying
will you
for it.
pay more than $40 a year for a little bit of security?
I'm not going to agree to that. That's just me.
And that's fine, that since this money is coming out of the storage fee, it is paid for only by those people who have material down there. So it's a self-funding feature of how this is set up to run. So if those who have stuff down there, if they want security, and obviously we've had a lot of people who do, they want something done, then it should come out of the storage fund. We're not charging anyone else in the park money to protect what's down there. It would come out of the storage fee, whether it's cameras, gate, whatever.
Jim's, but we also have down there a complete shop full of all kinds of tools. And we have insurance on those, right? But we do have a big deductible too. So that's a consideration. It's not just the people that have storage down there, it's park-owned property.
Yeah, but it's just convenient for most of it to be paid for from the storage area because it's behind the gate, I'll put it that way. But you are correct, exactly. That is part of the park and it should be everyone's concern as far as the storage area. Now, if you want the security for that to be different than from the storage area, in other words, the funding for it, then that's something that the board can do or not. They can lump it all together, they can separate it out.
Okay, this will be continued then until July. And they did steal gasoline from the maintenance shop, and that's a felony now.
Yeah, but I think it was in a diesel. And if they put it in a diesel truck, they've got a problem.
Okay. Okay, we'll go on. We had something that's not on the agenda, wasn't placed on the agenda from last week, is to allow boondocking longer than 7 days. Jim?
Yeah, Madam President, due to the fact that the park's rental spaces have been full and that the park may continue to experience the condition that there are no member lots available to rent to guests, I move that the 7-day limit on boondocking be waived anytime that the park has no rental spaces available for guests or until this motion is rescinded by the board. And I'll talk more on this if I get a second.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Okay, Jerry beat you.
Okay.
This was brought up at the agenda meeting that we've had people who want a full hookup space, want to rent in this park, and there's no space available at the inn. It's the time of year it is. So we've told them to go to boondock. Well, there's a 7-day per year, I believe it is, limit on boondocking. And we should penalize those people who want to rent a space here and say, no, you have to go to boondocking, but you can only stay 7 days and then you have to be gone and you can't come back for a year. That's not really being sharing and caring. So I feel that we should waive that 7-day limit anytime that there's no space available to rent in our rental pool. And that's basically what this is all about. And I think Jerry wants to talk on it too.
Should there be an upper limit on the amount of time?
Should there be what?
An upper limit?
Well, it would be those days that we're full. In other words, if we're full for a month,
So
if you want to put an upper limit on it, I'm not going to. You can have a separate motion to modify this motion.
Okay.
And then that would be voted on first and then the base motion.
And I believe that should only be if they ask. we have 5 boondockers now, and there were 3 lots available yesterday. And they did not take those lots. So some people, either they're just satisfied with the boondocking, or they're just gonna stay a day or two.
But,
So,
but under this motion, that would not apply. I'm going to repeat the motion. That the 7-day limit on boondocking be waived anytime that the park has no rental spaces. If we have rental spaces and they refuse them, then it doesn't apply to them.
okay,
That's gonna be my question.
right. So that clarified it. Thank you, Jim. Okay. And everybody's shaking their head. Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
about this once or twice.
Okay. Any more questions from the board? Any comments from the members? Beg your pardon?
All
further question.
Okay. I call for the vote now. Jim, let me share. Oh, let me look at the motion again. Okay. Those in favor of Jim's motion, 7-day limit on boondocking be waived anytime the park has no rental spaces available for the guest or until this motion is rescinded by the board. Raise your hand for yes. I have 7 yeses. Are there a no? And I have 1 no. Susie. Okay. Do we need a directive to the office?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes. Rob?
Patty,
Uh-huh.
this really should be added to the rules and regulations also.
I,
don't think so.
this is
It's a
temporary
it's a
because of the
temporary-
gas
temporary.
prices. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be out of the rules and regs. It's a office procedural thing. The board asked Kim to not enforce this 7 days from the time we had the agenda meeting until now, because it was going to be discussed. We didn't know which way it would go. So we didn't want to kick anybody out of the park before we decided which way we wanted to go on this. So I think it's just strictly an office procedural thing.
okay.
And
It's not in our rules and regs now, I don't believe, is it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's in the
Is it?
rules and regs. And it's also on the brochure that we hand out. 7 days is the limit.
Okay.
Okay, but also to be rescinded. So this is a temporary thing because of
Yes.
the fuel crisis we're going through. Should that be in there?
And it's a busy time of the year.
Well,
We have more members in the park than normal.
well, it's been passed. We can always rescind things if we found out. We don't like them. Okay. And this is the one that I had. This is, Jerry, this is a note that we got from Kim. A couple of items were brought to your attention about a monthly renter with a oral request.
Yes,
Okay,
a monthly renter made a request to the office that they be allowed to put 2 rigs on their lot. They are in the process of buying a new rig and selling the old one. And the new rig was to be delivered by tomorrow, according to the request. And they would like to put the rig that they're getting rid of, let it, either put it into storage, or I think the other option was put it into boondock until they get rid of it. And they were having the buyers for their old rig come into the park to pick it up.
by when?
And that was supposed to be by July 1st,
If not before?
if not before, yes.
Okay.
Jerry, do you want to make a motion on it? Do you want me to, whatever?
Go ahead.
Okay, if this is not the proper motion, Jerry, correct me. I move that we allow one time this specific renter to store his rig in either Boondock at $5 a day, or into storage at $40 for a period not to exceed 1 month.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, does that, Jerry, does that?
Yes,
meet the
I think
parameters of
that'll
what
take care of
you're-
it.
Any questions? Any
Yes.
questions, comments? Don?
Is this a renter or is this space 57?
This
Or
is a
47?
renter. This is a renter.
Okay, the reason why was asking is just seemed kind of a coincidence that space 47 is doing exactly the same thing.
Not exactly.
They're,
Close.
they're getting their rig tomorrow.
Yes,
new
and they
rig.
have their rig, lot 47 has requested to have the 2 rigs on the lot for 48 hours, which is authorized by the bylaws or rules and regs. So that they can exchange.
Okay, I didn't realize they had, I was under the impression that they had not sold their old rig yet.
As far as I know, they have, and they are members,
Yeah.
whereas
right,
this
I know.
happens to be a renter,
They're my
not on the
neighbors.
AWL.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so this is a renter who is not on the AWL list. According to our rules, are not eligible to use our storage. That's why they're asking for this special permission. Okay, any board member?
Jerry, question. Being that putting it in storage may entail some others, I would like to modify my motion to say that they may put their rig in Boondock at $5 a night, not to exceed 30 days.
I would say not until, they've said the first, they've asked for the first, let's say the 1st of July.
Well, let's say until July 2nd.
Okay,
I'll modify my motion to say that they may put their extra rig in boondocking at $5 a night up until July 2nd.
Okay, that's the modification. I'll call, any discussion on that? Okay, I'll call for a vote on the modified version to allow them for Boondock area only, $5 a day up until July 1st. Second,
Through July 2nd.
okay. Do we need a second on that for the modified motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
And Jerry, okay. Any comments, Don?
Well, I just figured it out. Between now and the end of the month is 15 days. At $5 a day, it'd be cheaper for her to put it in storage than it would be to put it in the boondocks.
Yeah, well, I don't want to put the park into that. I don't want to do that.
Okay.
If you want to give them that option, that's a separate motion.
No, I just
Mhm.
strictly information.
Right, yeah, it's more to put it in boondocking. So, okay, call for that vote. Those in favor of the modified motion, raise your hand. 7, I have 7. How many noes? How many abstain? Oh, you vote, I'm sorry, Susie, I didn't see your hand.
How about?
Okay, that's 8 yeses, so the motion is passed. Do we need to direct it to the office to tell that renter?
Yeah, it's just to cover ourselves and cover Kim, yes.
Okay, I'm doing this for the record to make sure our directives are done, Ron.
Needs to be done. I will tell Kim today, but
She needs a direct.
she needs a directive. She will get one.
Okay, and there was another thing on this memo we got. Jerry, do you want to address it too?
Yeah,
We got a memo from the office.
we had some requests from the office. The office brought these things to my attention, and as a liaison, I brought them to the board. One of the items that was brought to my attention by the office is that we really do not have a policy on the advertising of lot exchanges. And what has happened is on the bulletin board down there, there was a card that's saying there is a lot exchange that's available. And the notification was put up by a third party as opposed to the person that the member that had the lot. And we do not have a policy on this. And I thought maybe we should have a policy on this. Whether this is okay to advertise for lot exchanges or how it should be done. And that's where I thought we needed to have some discussion. And
Yeah, Patty and I talked to Kim about this yesterday, and normally exchanges are a private exchange between two individuals. The problem comes out is when a third individual says, hey, there's going to be an exchange, you know, someone wants to exchange lots. I personally don't see a problem with that, but that person cannot act as the agent for the exchange. In other words, they can't sign any paperwork or anything because the office gets involved with, one, the paperwork fee, and two, if the lots are different values, then money has to be paid to the corporation for the equity. So as long as the two people who are exchanging lots are the ones doing the signing, I don't have a problem with somebody who's out of the park saying, hey, would you go put something on the bulletin board? But when that person starts acting as the agent, then it becomes a little more sticky.
they don't have a right to act as an agent.
Right.
And my issue is with the advertising. That was solely it.
And maybe this person we're talking about being an agent, maybe it's just somebody that's doing.
A favor.
Yeah, this is my thinking after we talked, Jim, is somebody doing somebody a favor or facilitating somebody to go by the rules that we have. Not everybody knows how to exchange their lots, et cetera. But our bulletin board, which is in the mail room, has 3 things that I'm aware of. It's got to be dated, and after 2 weeks, it comes down. Mm-hmm. It has to be on that 3x5 piece of card paper. And I think that's it. But people put up signs, I want to buy a cargo trailer. I want to sell my 5th wheel. We can do that, right? We have done that. So that is an advertisement. People are selling things, TVs, tables and chairs, you know? So
golf carts.
Right. So, you know, that bulletin board is used for advertisement. Maybe there was just a misinformation, a misconception about somebody that wants to facilitate. I don't know. But if they put up, they want an exchange a lot, you can do that, right?
Yes, and I think the concern came is they put themselves as the contact person because they were doing the favor for someone else. And I don't see a problem with that as long as the understanding is that any paperwork has to be, if it's a lot exchange, the paperwork has to go through the office and there may be a monetary consideration because of the park rules and regulations.
Right. Do you think, go ahead, Jerry.
Do I need to make a motion that we approve this if we're gonna do that?
To approve
the posting of lot exchanges by third party?
No.
Okay.
You might want to talk to Kim about it though, but I mean.
Yeah. Maybe Jim and I talked to her, and Jim and you can talk to her again if you would like to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's done. Okay. Do we want the garden committee group now? Or do you want to go last?
No.
They want out of here.
All righty. The members' concerned having been addressed during the board's garden workshop, along with explanations by the community garden group, it seems there's enough are sufficient interest and support for building a garden. Therefore, I move the board give the community garden group permission to build a garden.
I second the motion.
Motion to build a garden.
Create a garden, build a garden.
How about start construction when funds are available for the garden?
Put a garden on your own lot, is that what you're talking?
No,
No.
the community garden.
Well, I have,
New speakers in here for one thing. Forget the gate, need new speakers.
I would like to address some of that if I may. I have some questions before we would, or before I would vote to proceed with something like that. Number one.
Just a second, John. There's kind of a motion right now. Before we get talking, we have to second it.
Who was second?
Oh, I'm
I did
sorry,
second.
Jim.
I did
Okay.
second.
Well, what
So
was,
now we're in discussion.
okay.
So, and
Well,
John has the floor.
Let me get it straight then. Sharon made a motion to build a garden. Is that the motion?
To start construction
Okay, a motion to start construction.
of.
Are you
of
happy?
Of the community garden.
Sharon, are you happy with that? Okay. And that was second. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, fine. Okay, first of all, we need something to know what the cost is going to be and who is proposed to pay for the cost, who's going to pay for the cost. And like, I know it requires a fence. I read, and but by the way, this is a very good report here. It was well done. But who is going to install a fence? Is it going to be a professional fence company? And, okay, so if it's going to be members, then who has the expertise among those members to install it properly? That's going to make a big difference. And then the watering system, again, is that going to be done by professionals or is it going to be done by volunteers? And who has the expertise to install that properly, the drip systems and the water to it, and a water meter, because there needs to be, in my opinion, some way to pay for the excess water, because we just got to notice that the water is going up. And the annual cost to keep it up, i.e. the water and maintenance. And also, please be aware that every other committee in here had a budget cut this year to maintain what we're doing. So I think we have to be real careful where this money is coming from and the cost. And we know nothing about that. So I don't know how I could vote for giving an okay to start building and we don't know all the facts.
I would like to address some of your concerns, not all of them, but some of them. I think, John, that there's some misconception. One, there is no money that goes to the community garden group from the park. They, at this point, are completely self-sustaining, so no money from the park goes to them. That's one issue. Two, you're asking about how the fence is going to look, and that's a legitimate concern. As far as putting in a water system, we've done that in-house a lot. There's enough expertise here to dig a ditch and to run a water pipe. As far as a meter goes, I find it interesting that now they want to put a meter in.
Talking about.
That they want to put a meter in for the excess water that's going to be used when we can use all of the water we want on our private lots. And that's not metered. that's paid by everybody. So are you suggesting that we should start metering everybody's lot? I have a garden. Are you gonna want to water how much water I'm using as opposed to a community garden? If I go down there, that seems like it's a second-class citizen. If you're part of the community garden group, then you have to pay for the water you use. But if you do it on your own lot, you don't. So I find that kind of incongruous that you would charge them for water, extra water. If they want to, if the board wants to do it, they can do that. But I find that a little strange that we can do it on our private lots, but we can't as a group.
Well, we're all entitled to our opinions there.
Yes.
So that will be requested by the park maintenance or PCM or whatever to install and the two things? No? No? Okay, just asking, because those are valid questions. What about where are you going to put the garden?
Where would you like to?
Well,
we
you
already approved it at one location unless they want to change it.
okay, I'm just making that clear. You want to construct it on the lot that you were given, which is by the dog run.
Madam President?
That's the request? No?
We would certainly appreciate that.
I have a yes and I have a no.
I'm behind you. Can I speak?
Yes, you may.
Okay, Jill Goldman, lot 68. And first off, I would like to address the fact that we are not a committee, we are a group.
Yep.
And we have been raising our own funds so that we can build this. It's my understanding this might be simply asking for permission to move ahead. The second motion that you haven't heard yet is going to be about where it will be located. So that you're asking a lot of questions about a motion that that is not what the motion is about.
Okay, we didn't know that.
We have substantial money at this point, which in a very short time we have been able to raise, and there are many more pledges that will be coming to us. Once we have a location accepted for us, then we can go ahead and start measuring. We can determine what needs to be done to be able to put the garden in that particular area and what any additional costs will be. You got an outline of our goals. We do have a copy of the full proposal to distribute to you folks to let you know that there's a whole lot more. All you got were the headlines of each of the goals. There's a lot more body to that. And so what we're asking at this point is to go ahead. And then we'll talk about the spot. And then we will be reporting to the board. We're not a runaway group. We will be reporting to the board, letting you know how things are proceeding. The only thing that we will be asking is permission to use park equipment when necessary, such as backhoe, et cetera, if that becomes necessary for us.
Okay, the motion to go ahead and do what?
Create a garden. Nobody said we can go ahead and create a garden.
Does that mean start construction of the fence?
No, it means we can start looking into, excuse me. The first goal is to obtain permission. The second goal is to locate the garden. So right now we are obtaining permission to go ahead. The second goal will be to locate the garden, and that is to provide a safe, accessible place for people with limitations. And then we will go ahead and create the garden design. Every step of the way, we will be talking to the board.
What I've given you is still a draft. but it has steps under in order to meet the goals, which answers quite a few questions, with the exception of the exact cost. We have an idea, but we don't have the exact, and we haven't decided. We don't know where it's going to be. We don't know, there's a lot of questions that we still have. So we can complete the proposal once we get permission to proceed.
Well, this is 5 pages here, and we do need to look, we just received it, so we do need to review it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you don't feel that you have sufficient information to allow us to move ahead, that's what we're asking.
Madam President,
Yes.
request for the Community Garden Committee. Would you please date your pages or the document at some point? Because I have several documents from folks and there's no date on them, so it's kind of hard for me to keep track unless I write it down. Okay, the one that I just gave you, you can put the date on it as the 15th. 2, it has, there's already been some changes to it, so it's a draft. And
Yes,
it's not
I
a
understand
draft
that.
for, public, for everyone to look at, other than the board to give you an idea of how we intend to meet our goals.
Okay. I'm gonna put the day's date, because that's the date we
Yes.
received it. I mean,
That's
you may have typed it several days ago, but I'm putting down today's date.
Well, the 16th.
Yes, okay?
I am sorry to harp on this, but we are not a committee, we are.
I didn't say the word.
Did I?
Use the term.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. You're a groupie. I accept it. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I had one other
It's hard
thing.
enough. Yes.
We have already approved the location. Do we need to rescind that? Because they were talking about, not to stop anything necessarily, just because they talked about having a different location possibly, taking all factors in consideration.
I don't know if, I mean, I don't know about the formal way of doing it,
Well,
but
the formal way
we are
is-
considering other locations.
Since the board has approved the location and not rescinded it, if they wanted it to change, when the community garden group gets to the point where they want to start construction, at that point, the board can either say, well, we don't want it there, or where do you want it? And they can change their venue as a request to the board. If there's another location that they would prefer, the board would then have to approve that. Or the board can rescind where they've already given them permission. Those are kind of the options.
Thank you, Jim. I think it would be less confusing to go ahead and rescind it until they can decide, present where they would like it to be in and have the board approve it.
Well, that's one way of putting another roadblock in their way, but, because
It's not a roadblock.
well, then the board's gonna reapprove it where they've already approved it.
Well,
If
possibly.
Okay, well, make a
Well,
motion.
If I can I say something real quick?
Yes.
For them to really proceed and get what the costs are gonna be and where they're gonna put it, let me finish.
We don't care.
Well, let me finish my statement first, okay? They really need an idea of where they're gonna put it, because that'll determine the cost. I mean, it could vary. It could be, okay, I'm gonna have 25 of the raised garden. We can fit them in this spot, but this spot, we can only fit 15. So for them to proceed, they need a rough idea as to where they're gonna put it. They can't just say, okay, this is just generic. If they're gonna really proceed, then they need an idea, a location.
Okay. I would like to withdraw my motion and make a new motion. Considering the additional needs to build at the upper site, and the upper site happens to be that space that is unused by anything now other than mowing above the office. That's the space that we would like considered. I move that the board allow the community garden group to build a garden at the site above the office and be able to use park equipment as needed to address the rough terrain and remoteness of the area.
I'll second.
I would ask that you modify that to, instead of as needed, as available. The park has use of a lot of that equipment, and when they're not using it, any member has the right to ask for the use of equipment, of park equipment, because the members have paid for the equipment, but it should be as available.
So amended.
Jim, just a quick question. Not everybody can operate park equipment. So I think that might be a consideration for engineering issues and.
It's already a consideration if a member wants something done. Usually someone will volunteer. You know, Randy has a list of people who are authorized to use, let's say, the tractor. He has a list of people who can use a mower. Most of the other equipment, there's not any special real skill used, you know, and needed. But if they're going to use any of the big equipment, the dump truck, the backhoe, the tractor, there is a list of people who are basically Randy certified on those pieces of equipment. And they're the only ones that can use it in the park anyway. It's illegal for anyone else to just get on a piece of equipment and use it.
Thank you. And would it be too convoluted to put some of that stuff in there, or is that not necessary? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think we're trying to sneak anything in here. I think it's just kind of accepted procedure. You don't put any special in for a regular member. You know, say you can't use it. You know, if you want to use the backhoe, then you have to get someone that can use the backhoe.
Okay.
Ken, did you want to speak?
Not my motion.
Ken Grant.
Yes, Ken, lot 199. There are several people in here that have gardens on their own spot.
Any other board member have any comments?
Yeah, Don made a motion, made a comment that motion needs a second, so I'll second it, so we can talk about it.
Okay, so you second, I thought you amended it.
I asked her to amend it,
Oh,
and she
okay.
did.
Don second.
Oh, then John seconded it. Okay,
Okay.
good.
John second both
I'm so
motions.
confused.
Okay. Don, you had something to say?
Yeah, if they do decide to take the second location, I kind of recommended that to her, mainly because if this thing takes off, dog run will only hold 29 cleaners, but the one up there on top, plus on that one up there, square footage of what they've got set up on their plans. So that would be a better location in the long run if it does go over 29.
And I have a question, Sharon. On your motion, am I correct in understanding that basically you're saying that you would like permission to have that be the site of choice for the community garden group's garden, and that you're also asking permission to go forward with planning and such? You're not asking for any construction at this time, simply to go forward with planning and getting positive site preparation.
Yes. Planning and no digging.
It's not that I'm reading you.
Yes, good question. Does that mean that once we have everything, ready to go, we have to come back and ask to get ready to go?
I think there's some concern on the fence, so I think you could get the site prepped, but you would probably have to ask, concerning John's concern about what the fence would look like. I think that, that you might have to ask permission to start construction of the fence, but this will allow you to prep the ground, because putting a fence in is not the first thing that's going to need to be done. There might be some leveling, a pathway, there could be a lot of other things associated with this, getting it ready.
Well, my concern actually is that the fence needs to be installed properly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you want it done that way. You don't want it falling down on you. And so a 6-foot plus fence, and that chain link has to be stretched. It has to.
It's not chain link.
Well, what was it? I didn't read it. What was it going to be?
It's gonna be polypropylene.
I'm sorry.
Polypropylene.
Okay.
And it's 7.5 feet high.
It's, no, 6.5.
6.5 feet,
6.5, and then there's a 2-foot critter fence below that.
Yeah. This is basically keep the deer out, and at least this new location, if approved, is basically pretty much hidden.
It is, you cannot see it from down here.
Okay, I didn't know all the details on the fence, but I just want to make sure the fence is installed properly, that's all.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, you may. I'm sorry.
Murphy, lot 56. Wasn't it decided that you guys were going to take time to look at those 5 pages that was just given to you, and then all of this discussion can take place after that's been done? Thank you.
You want to read that now? Well, I read someplace that the fence was going to be 7.5 feet, but maybe that included your extension.
About 6.5 feet. By 80.
Yeah. Oh, okay. In the new one we got. Yes.
Yes, the community would know. I just want to remind the board and membership that the community garden group has been meeting on a weekly basis, discussing many details of the garden going forward. We also are working on putting together a business plan. But this has taken a great deal of time. So asking permission to go forward means that we can really get behind and get many more details. Again, Jill said, we will be reporting to the board regularly. So we're not a runaway train. At this point, we have $5,745.10 ready to use to construct the garden. And that's just beginning. This is in the last, couple months that we, when ice came back into the park, the garden had $317 in the bank. So it has really, there's a lot of enthusiasm. It will be a community project. That means anyone with questions, those questions will be tried to be answered. This is something that a garden for people who are still traveling a lot, who are members, to put a garden on their own leasehold is not practical and very costly. They can also join in this. This is really well thought out. And there will be more and more details as we go along. And as we feel that we can really get our group together with some practical hope, I guess, that this will come to be. So we ask you to let the park take.
Elaine, you say you have over $5,000 now. Where is that money being held?
Some of it is in the bank here, in the park. Some of it is pledges, but the pledges are very good pledges. And we haven't really asked for others. We're waiting basically to give, for you to give permission for the garden to go forward. Then I know that there will be much more money available to the garden itself. And we'll be apprised of that as we go along as well.
Okay, so right now, is it still just that $1,521.10 that's in the
It is,
parks?
but I have another $412
Put in.
to put in today.
Okay, just checking and reading your goals here about the account. Apparently, you're going to have some officers in your group as a treasurer. According to this, checks will be issued by the office when presented with a signed draft and purchase receipt from the group's treasurer. So that's something that's going to be done? Okay.
Yes, I mean, of course, because who are you talking to here? The old lady audit witch. So it'll be done properly.
Mhm. Well, that's very similar to what Jackson Jill's doing. They have their own bank account.
They do.
They have their own treasurer, and that treasurer takes care of the money and distribution to people that are reimbursed. Okay, just
But
checking
at
on
the
it.
same time, as Jackson Jill, that bank account, even though it is a separate bank account, it is also on the park books, and Kim puts in every transaction into the park financial statements for Jackson Jill.
I know that. Thank you for that information for everybody. Okay. Go ahead, Peggy.
It is certainly not fair to the board or to the rest of us to wait till today to give you the 5-page report. And so we're going to read it as the meeting proceeds. So I suggest you take time to study this, and we'll have to one more time.
And on this one that we just got, Sharon, the very last page there about the current garden sites under construction, there it says 2 possible alternative sites located on the hill. So apparently there's 2 separate areas up there on the hill behind the office. And it's got to be prepared because they're uneven and rocky, and that is for sure. They got to grade a path to the flat garden, gravel the path for easy walking and traveling with golf carts, dig and prepare steps up the hill and install handrails, cost, ? Plan for delivery of soil, wood chips to the garden site. Should the board assign the alternative site, whatever that is, will request to use park equipment and consultation with the park manager for preparing the site, erecting the fence, and walking/golf path, golf cart class. Okay, so we have a lot to look at, board. So
But she's only asking for one thing right now,
just to start, what was it?
to move forward.
Permission to establish a garden.
Well, it said construct garden. Now we got to go ahead. I'm not quite sure what your motion is again, Sharon. We've changed it 3 times.
I move that the board allow the community garden group to build a garden at the site above the office and be able to use park equipment as needed and available to address the rough terrain and remoteness of the area.
Okay, and that's been second, so I'm calling for a vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Jill.
Well, that's okay. I wanted to clarify that last proposal that was passed out,
They were given an outline of that proposal, and it wasn't meant to be read at this moment. It was just to let you folks know that that outline that we had sent to you, that we had given you prior to this meeting, was much fuller than just that outline. So we wanted you to know, as an organization, our group, well thought out, well structured, and in the future will only be better.
Okay, the motion pending. Those in favor of Sharon's motion, and I won't repeat it right now, unless you want to, dear.
Just did.
Okay, all right, those in favor, raise your hands, yes. I have 4 yeses. How many noes? And 4 noes.
Who's the nose?
Oh, the 4 noes is Dawn. Who voted? You voted no. The Dons are, the Dons, the noes are Dawn, John, Susie, and Jerry. So that's 4 to 4. Oh my.
Yes,
my.
oh my, oh my, oh my.
I told you this would happen, ladies. That's why I tried to be so objective, listening and talking with everybody.
That's why you get the big bucks.
I know. This is really difficult. It really, really is. But my vote will be no. I said no. Yes, Jerry?
I make a motion that we allow the garden group to establish a garden period.
I'll second it.
Pay attention.
Who seconded? Dawn? Oh, Sharon. Okay.
That
Okay.
will allow them to go forward with planning, correct?
Motion to establish a garden.
Yes.
Is there any discussion on that?
Well, what really does that mean? That gives them permission to go ahead and start construction, or what does that mean?
Just to start their plan. Okay.
And I would like to make a suggestion to the garden. I'm not opposed to the garden. I'm really not. I'm in favor of it. Okay, but would you please maybe stake out that area? Just take some wooden stakes where you're going to, where you're planning on building it.
We don't have a
Well, I thought you just talked about behind the,
That was voted down.
It was voted down.
well, it was voted down, but
You can't turn around.
that's gonna come back up again. Whatever. I just thought it'd be nice. I just thought it'd be nice to have a visual of where it's going to be placed.
Okay.
Okay.
Over.
Patty,
Yes.
there were 2 locations that they had asked for. It was in the paperwork.
Micah.
We all got the paperwork.
Micah.
Can't hear you.
We all got the paperwork. And site one was by the dog run. Site 2 was up on the hill.
It was the other way around. Site,
No.
originally,
Well,
site
behind
one,
the office, I'm sorry,
site one was behind
the office.
this building. Site 2 was by the
Right.
dog run. The board at that time approved site 2.
Correct.
Since then, there's an alternate site that was under consideration by the group behind on the hill behind the office.
Which we haven't seen.
And they had drawings for all 3.
No, not for the one behind the office. No.
Not the one behind the office. But
Okay.
4-5. By your permission to establish a garden, now we can come back with various locations and costs and much more detail for you. At this point, we are kind of feeling like we're treading water. We don't have any way to even go forward at all. With our thinking, we have already tried to put together a business proposal. Costs are difficult if we aren't sure where it's going to be. We are looking for your permission to establish a garden so that now we can go forward with our thinking, with more detail, with more costing, and we can look at different locations and see what it would take for each one. I think we made it pretty clear that the cost to the park is not really one of the criteria you need to worry about. We are establishing our own funding for that at this point in time. We'll be reporting back and forth to the board anyway. This is in the park. And so we just ask permission to be able to go forward and with the establishment and get you more information.
We're going to do a do-over. So we're just going to entertain this motion to establish a garden, period. And then you can bring it forward in the future when you have something to offer to the board.
Under the motion, back.
Go ahead.
You don't have this on your computer?
It's not your, it's not.
What do you want back?
I want the proposal that I.
The draft,
The draft.
You can pick them
I
up.
like the
I
draft.
have 5 pieces,
Okay.
5 pages. Okay.
Do you want your outline back too?
I don't know.
You want your brochures back? Did you?
Come on, let's move on.
Okay, I'm just checking. We've got a whole binder here full. Okay. Motion's been second. We'll take the vote. Those in favor to establish a garden? Rocky? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's seven yeses. Do I have a noes? And 1 no, Susie. Motion passed.
Why did you want yellow?
Okay, we have 2 issues left. One is political signage and one is a hot tub request. Okay,
Madam President.
yes.
I have a motion considering political signage. This board convened a workshop last month
On the 4th of May. Mhm.
to look at this issue. It was brought up by several members that they were uncomfortable with the political signage in the park and that the policy of the park has always been that it's flourished. But there's nothing that says that it can or can't be put in. And so that was the reason we held the workshop. We had a pretty good turnout of the workshop. I think we had 38 members.
Plus.
Maybe plus. But when it all came down to it, the membership was divided pretty evenly. Yes, we should have some restrictions, and no, we shouldn't have any restrictions. We've had what I would call institutional knowledge. When I came into the park, we were told you don't put political signage up. It's discouraged. It's not illegal, but it's discouraged. And that's gone on and on and on. But those people who were communicating that, a lot of them are getting older or they, have moved off. So I have a motion that's gonna make nobody real happy. Because nobody gets everything they want. But I think it basically speaks to where we are in the park today. Because we all live very close together and hold different beliefs, and out of mutual respect for each other, the board affirms the long-standing but unwritten policy that, although not prohibited, the display of political signage on members' leaseholds is discouraged. I also move that this statement be added to the park rules and regulations. Is that
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Let me look at it, please.
Who's the second?
Okay, do we have a second?
You have a second.
Okay,
Did Bev,
So
Bev seconded.
since I get the first bite of the apple, and
Okay.
basically what this just says is, if you want to put political signage up, you can do it. Okay, but the park as a group discourages it because you may be offending your neighbors. So decide what you want to do and go with your conscience. That's what has been up until now. So all this does is continue what the policy of the park has been, but it puts it in writing. It's not just word of mouth. That's basically what this motion does.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'm not happy with the word discouraged.
Well, what would you use? Encourage?
Well, read the sentence, please.
The display of political signage,
The whole thing.
okay, because we all live very close together and hold different beliefs, and out of mutual respect for each other, the board affirms the long-standing but unwritten policy that, although not prohibited, the display of political signage on members' lots, leaseholds, is discouraged.
How about something like up to discretion? Or something of that nature. Does anybody have any better ideas? Well, if you have something to say, please get up to the mic and say it. Don't just sit here and mumble, please.
Mhm. That's true. If you got something to say, we want to hear from you now. Discouraged, what does that mean? Does that mean I go over to Jim and say, Jim, I really don't like that sign. I really wish you would not fly that. Am I discouraging you?
No, this is the policy of the park, period. As I said, it's maintaining the status quo. It's putting into writing what has before been the unwritten quote unquote policy.
Right. And I
As I said, nobody's gonna like this because it doesn't go one way or the other, but this is where we're at now. And since this is the last monthly meeting of this board, I felt that this needed to either be taken care of or voted yes or voted down. And that is a statement in itself. Okay, if this is the last monthly meeting of this board, I don't think it should be dumped onto the next board.
Yes, Jan.
Yes, Jan Turkey, Local 35. I don't think anything needs to be done. I think we're all adults. We should be able to just do what we want to do on that. Like I have a flag up, that's not hurting anybody. If you don't like it, don't look at it. I mean, that's not, everybody has their own choice and their own feelings on it. And somebody shouldn't really say yay or nay, why do anything at all on it? Leave it up to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jan. Well, in the motion, it said the board affirms the long-standing but unwritten policy that. I've never heard of any, I've never heard of that until about a month or so ago. Somebody said that, oh, we have a policy, we don't talk politics or religion. I said, oh, great, is that in writing? You know, and, you know, but it's not, I don't know if it's ever been in writing in this park, so I
It
don't.
hasn't been in writing. That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
a long-standing, a long-standing, how could, did you know about that? I never knew about that. Did you know about that?
When I came into the park,
I know.
when I came into the park, yes, I was told at my orientation, but we have two members here that want to talk.
Okay, well, I didn't get my orientation. Yes, Joan, and then Karen.
I wholeheartedly approve of the motion. Understanding of everyone in the park was. And a little beyond that, but I really think we should follow his motion because it is good for now and always.
Yes, Karen.
Karen Rackford, lot 58. I agree with Jan. Like, we get into all this feely stuff. When are we gonna start complaining about a bumper sticker that somebody has on their car? If I have something you want that you don't like, then you want fine. I'm not pushing it in your face. If I want to have something hung in the window of my motorhome and you don't like it, that's my choice. That's my space. Oh, right. That's our constitutional right. We need to get away from all this feely stuff, trying to dig up feelings that is not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Michelle Van Weston, 182. Thank you for saying partly what I was going to say. And I also am concerned about how do you define political? Like, is my t-shirt political? If I had a banner that said, I support Blue Lives, is that political? I mean, political is a very, very slippery slope. I mean, seriously, I came to the US because it was the great country in the world. But now I think it's counted as political, highly political, because they make America great. Well, what's political about that? I mean, our flag could very soon become political, and that's really scary. So I think, like they said, let's just leave. Let's not put anything that discourages or tolerates or whatever. Thank you.
I have one.
Welcome to America.
One last comment, and then I'm gonna let this be voted on, is that this does not say that you can't. It just says it's discouraged. That's all it says. You can interpret it any way you want. If you don't want this, then the board needs to vote it down and the membership will know what the board's position is. If that's the way it goes. So I just think we need a decision on it. This should not drag on. We had a workshop a month and a half ago on this and absolutely nothing has been said about it. This is bringing what the findings of that workshop was to a head. I think this board owes it to the membership to vote one way or the other. Period.
Okay. Hearing nothing else right now, we'll take that vote. How many are in favor of Jim's motion? Four yeses. And how many noes?
Wait, what for we're voting for?
We're voting for Jim's.
I know, which four though?
Oh, the
Put your
four.
hands up before, put
Okay.
your hands up again.
Okay.
Three.
Bev.
Oh, Rocky.
And Rocky.
I didn't see Rocky.
Okay. And how many against?
Pray for an abstention.
1, 2, 3. Okay, it's 3.
Wait, didn't you vote? Don?
Ask for an abstention.
Okay. And Don abstains? Okay. Well, that is 4 yeses, 3 noes, and 1 abstain. So.
And you dodged the bullet.
So the yeses get it. This will be passed. And Jim, you're requesting that will be added to the parks rules and regs?
Mhm. And basically, it changes nothing. Is what it does. Yeah.
Okay, and we'll need a directive to Kim.
Put it in the rules and regs.
In the rules and regs. Okay, our last thing on our
Wait
agenda.
just a minute. Patty,
Yes, Rocky.
could I please have the no's?
Yes.
Who voted no?
No's were Jerry, Susie, and John.
Thank you.
No, it's not abstain. I guess it is abstain, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to put down the abstention.
Yeah, okay. You got that, Rocky?
I did, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. The last thing on our agenda right now is the what?
Oh, a new business.
Under
New business.
new business, is the hot tub
Madam
request.
President,
Yes, Susie?
I move for a one-time exception for John and Cindy Pierce, Lot 104, to allow the installation of a hot tub based on an approved, pardon me, an approved lot improvement request form, while we continue to evaluate the viability of allowing hot tubs in the park, taking into consideration a variety of factors pertaining to the installation.
All right, is there a second on that motion?
I'll go ahead and second it. Needs to be put.
Jim seconded it, Rocky.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Any talk on this from the board?
I have a couple comments.
Yes.
One, this request was put in, and these have never been put in the park before, so it's something the board needs to look at. However, their request was so well documented, and it was presented to the Lot Improvement Committee. The Lot Improvement Committee's information went back to them and requested a modification of their request, which they have already complied with. So I feel that they shouldn't have to wait. There's a medical component of this, and so I think that it's appropriate for the board to approve this request while they look at the issue at large of hot tubs in the park, and it is my intent to vote yes.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from our members?
Russell, lot 11. When we came in here 22 years ago, there had been a hot tub on our property. Supposedly it was position approved. It caused so much commotion and dissension. I just think we need to think about history repeating itself. And our water bill is going up. How many gallons does it take to fill a hot tub?
250 on this particular one is just a small hot tub. And there's chemicals that we use in hot tubs that take care of a lot of the problems that could arise. And they don't have to be drained all the time.
Okay, and Jim, you kind of did a quick figure on how much for 250 gallons, how much that would cost.
Depending on how often they dump it, if they dump it every 2 weeks, it's gonna cost, less than, I think, 50 cents to, to fill and dump it. Also, this hot tub is small, it is self-contained, it is 110 volt only. It is not plugged into the pedestal. It's all electric. It plugs into the rig, so their rig electrical system is the one that's using it. They're paying for all the electricity. So they did their homework on this, and they've done a lot of things that I think if the next board decides to approve hot tub generally for the park, they may be some of the things that they want to consider.
And again, this is just a one-time
This is a
exception
one-time,
until.
this is a one-time exception
the board can
for
review
a,
it.
for a medical reason.
Yeah, I did.
Just now.
No,
I
he didn't.
did earlier. I may not have been clear.
And they're not able to hear you there. There's all that stuff going on.
Okay, but yes, so, and we can't talk about that, but there is a medical
Request.
prescription.
Is that going to open up another can of worms, like whether we can have signs or not? Can I have a hot tub? My back hurts.
Can it open the
Right, start, lot improvement, that's where you start. Okay, I'll call for the vote now. Whoops.
Can I read this letter? Susie Garner, 105. I'm reading this letter to John and Cindy. John has been gone, but he came back and he doesn't have his glasses, so I will read this letter for him. Dear Timber Valley members, on May the 20th, 2022, we submitted a lot improvement request for a two-person hot tub to be placed on our lawn. This request was a letter from Cindy's doctor stating that medical conditions would benefit from the use of this hot tub. Along with this request and the doctor's letter was all the specs on the hot tub. On May 24th, 3 members of the lot improvement committee came to our lot and signed off on the request. Randy signed off on that. On May 25th, lot improvement came back at the request of someone in the office requesting a detailed description of how I was going to get the power to the hot tub. I did as they asked, and it was taken back to the office. There is a dedicated 20 AMP outlet at the back of the fifth wheel. At 4:50 p.m. on May 25th, I called the office to see where the signed off request was. I was told by the office that it had been approved, but I couldn't get my paperwork at this time because Don Bush had taken it home and was going to rewrite the guidelines. 30 minutes later, we got a call saying that the approval had been rescinded. The reason that Randy gave me for not approving the request was it would draw too much electricity. He didn't read the hot tub specs, or he doesn't know how to read it. It will be using less power than any of the 100+ freezers that are in the park sheds. I would like to put this out there that this hot tub is not even a lot improvement. It is an appliance like the refrigerators, freezers, and washing machines that are in the sheds of the park. The board had a closed board meeting on June 13th, 2022 to decide about hot tubs in the park. No decision was made, so here we are today, still waiting for our approval. We are asking the board to please override Randy's denial and return our request with your approval. Please remember, this is a letter from Cindy's doctor for medical treatment. Thank you for your time on this matter. John and Cindy Ferris, Fall 104.
Thank you, Susie. Jim, you had a comment?
Yeah, I do have a comment, specifically on Randy's denial. Randy did exactly the right thing. He came to the board and said, basically, I'm not going to approve this because there are none in the park at this time. And he wasn't going to stick his neck out and say, oh yeah, you can put one in. He says, this is a board decision. It is not a park manager decision. So the board, and this is why we're here today, the board did take this up specifically for this one hot tub. And that's what we're voting on today. And I don't know how the rest of the board members are going to vote, because we talked about the hot tub. We didn't talk about how we were going to vote. You don't do that in a closed meeting. Okay, it was an informational gathering meeting, and we learned a lot. And so today is when it's being presented by Susie. I seconded it. We're going to vote on it today.
I need to correct you, Jim, that Randy did not come to the board. Now, he may have came to his liaison or a liaison. I don't know.
It was, if you remember at the meeting, Rocky made the statement that he wasn't going to approve it because he wasn't going to, there was none in the park. And that came from his liaison. So I'm assuming that his liaison gave true and correct information from the park manager.
Okay.
Patty?
Yes. Yes, Rocky. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Or she's struck down.
Jim is right, that Randy came to me to ask me about it, and we went through the rules and regulations. There is no pools allowed, and a few other things that aren't allowed. And is a hot tub a pool, or is it just not a pool? We realized that there was a doctor's prescription, and it really needed to come to the board for a decision. It's not his decision to be able to sign off when it's not written down anywhere, whether it's allowed or not.
Okay, so he went to his liaison and you had your verbal conversation. Don, you and Randy had a conversation
Yes.
also?
Randy came to me, since I'm the liaison for the lot improvement, and I said, you're right. We have to take this before the board, because there's no ruling on it, and as long as there's no ruling on it, he can't approve it.
And that's how it came up before the board?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we have a pending motion still. Any more discussion? I will call for the vote then. Do you want me to read the motion again?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is for a one-time exception for John and Cindy Pierce on lot 104, allowing the installation of a hot tub based on an approved lot improvement request form. While we continue to evaluate the viability of allowing hot tubs in the park, taking into consideration a variety of factors pertaining to the installation. Those in favor of that motion, raise your hand. Okay, and Rocky. Okay, those against?
I abstain.
And one, okay, no against, and we have one abstaining, Sharon.
Does that make 8?
Yes,
6?
it does.
Oh,
I always thought it was 7.
yeah, 7.
Oh, 7 and 1.
Yeah, 7.
Never mind, new math.
Okay, 7 to 1, and the motion has passed. Well, do we need a directive to,
Yes, I'll send one to Randy.
okay,
And
a directive to Randy?
that needs to
Okay.
be signed by Randy.
No, it needs to be
Yes.
her too,
Well, yeah.
No,
but-
I don't sign these.
the bottom one.
No, the president doesn't sign this. This is approved.
The reason why I said you should sign that is because it's for one particular situation.
We can put a directive that she'll
That needs to go in the file. You need to keep that. That needs to go in the file.
Randy needs to sign that, and then we need to have the directive and then the approval attached to that, right, and go in the file for why it's there.
Right.
Okay, well, that ends everything on the agenda. The one little thing that we had,
Nope. We have
Office AC.
we have the office AC.
well, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay.
Okay, except that one little extra that I mentioned at the very beginning about the air conditioner is not working, and we're going to be getting a couple of estimates from Barnes.
Madam President,
Yes, Jim?
I have a motion. I move that the board pre-approve the replacement of the office AC unit, and that the treasurer approve any billing that they feel is appropriate, funds to come from CARF. If I get a second, I will give them some information on what it should cost. Okay, with a second. Okay, Jerry, historically, we've never replaced that AC unit. We replaced the ones here in this building. They're approximately the same. Current cost in CARF is $7,800. So if you want a dollar amount, maybe not to exceed $8,000, or just if it's reasonable, I think you should be able to approve it.
Yeah, since we don't know where the prices are at the current time,
Yes,
I would rather not have an upper limit if you don't mind. Maybe 10,000 might be a.
let's just leave it up to you. You are a competent member of the board, and so my motion is for you to be able to approve the cost of AC. That way we won't have another meeting.
And I will let the board know of what we find out in terms of the estimates.
Okay,
If the motion is approved.
If the motion.
sorry. Okay. Rocky, did you hear that motion? It was seconded by Dawn.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I did. I did not hear that Don seconded. So thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay. Any discussion on this, board members? They've been without anything for over a week, I guess, and it's warm in there. Okay, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3. And Rocky, okay, that is 8-4, so the pass unanimously. So that will need a directive?
Yes.
Okay, just clearing up. We're finished with the agenda. Does anybody else want to come up with something so I can say no?
Or announcements?
Our announcements, yes. Yes, Joan Larson.
I would just like to say the annual meeting is coming up, as we all know, and that's the time to sign up for committees. And we're serious about having a representative for each committee sitting behind the sign-up sheet. It was very effective. Last time we did it, it kind of fell apart because not many people did it. Really get behind your committee to be there and be a part of selling committee pieces on your committee.
Hopefully we can go back to the old way we had before. Just one moment. George is going, I'm going to let him speak and I'll let you speak, John.
I'll be real quick, just controversial. George Whiten, line 87, and I'm speaking strictly now through PCM. I would like to get rid of this dance floor so we'll have some room to put our chairs up in here for our meetings and get rid of that tripping hazard. Thank you.
George, I think what the proper way to do that would be at the next board meeting. Put it at the agenda, because it would take a 2/3 vote today to do that, because it was not on the agenda. Therefore, you have a better chance of passing it if you do it at the next meeting, which will be after the annual meeting.
You have a board meeting before that?
No, we do not.
So in August.
Okay.
No, you can do it in July.
I'll take care of it.
The agenda meeting is before the annual meeting, then there's the annual meeting, then 2 days later, the July board meeting with your new board. So this is your last chance to poo-poo this board, because this is the last monthly meeting of this board.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Yes, John Pierce.
John Pierce, 104. I'd just like to thank the board for their decision on the hot tub.
You're welcome. Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
No, we'll stay here.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we are adjourned at 11:45.
Don't we get to vote on it?
No.
Patty? Patty?
It was,
Okay,
it was passed by consent.
just.
Patty,